All right, I accidentally combined these in not the right order, but I have written down what order they're in, and I have your notes next to me. So this is actually the Sunday jumpers with weaves. Okay, everything looks fine so far. Okay, so got it. Okay, so let's take a look at this portion right here. We have fallen quite a bit behind here, which I'm sure is a factor. So right after the blue jump, wait, she turned right after the blue jump to go towards nothing. She was supposed to take yellow and then weave. So what I think happens here is if you look at it from her point of view as she takes off here, and as she lands, you are almost behind her at this point, given the kind of gentle nature of this line and the fact that you're trying to catch up in this direction. At some point, your line is converging with her line, right? So you are very, very close to the point where those lines intersect. And so I think that at this point that your dog is reading that as a rear cross. In fact, it could even be the moment that your dog loses peripheral vision of you, given this slicey nature. And so I think your dog basically responds to the perceived handling and turns, and it is a turn towards nothing, and your dog doesn't know what to take. But all they knew was, or thought they knew was, I need to turn this direction because I think my handler has crossed behind me. And in fact, in some respects, because this line is curving back in this direction, in some respects, because you're going like this and your dog is going like this, in some respects you are putting pressure on the line. So the question is, what could you do about it? This is a very difficult spot with a fast dog. You get the dog in here. I think one thing you could do is let your dog find this a little bit without as much help here, because you kind of wait here. So if we look, you don't cover very much ground here. And in fact, there's even like this plant foot. And so this is where your dog's really going to take off. I think that knowing that you have this really long line here, once your dog gets into the tunnel, and as soon as you get past this wing, you should be skirting this wing and heading in this direction. And then when your dog comes out and they see you blasting in this direction, I think that this jump is just going to be in their path. So I think that would get you, so my path would put you like this instead of this, and then down the line. And I think that path would put you, I would say that you could be here at this point, driving. So let's say that you can be this much further along at every point. Then that means at this point, you're more like even with the dog, and you are able to support that blue, that line to blue and yellow better. But I think that's what happens is your dog reads it as a rear cross. And I can't really see very many other good options here other than getting you further ahead with different handling up here. Maybe even to the point of, at this point, as your dog heads towards the tunnel, coming this way rather than this way to layer that jump. And then you could kind of wait here and you could make eye contact with your dog as they come out, and then you would be in a really good position. So that might be even a better solution there, because I feel like your dog at this point, if you say tunnel, at this point when your dog does this and you do this, you're actually rear crossing, which is what you're doing anyway for the tunnel, right? But I think that you could have done this layer here. And I think that's probably the best answer there. All right, so then we said we don't need to review the rest. So then let me look at my cheat sheet to see what's next. Next is Saturday jumpers. Okay, here we go. So the weave pulls have been a small issue since coming back from COVID. I'm going to pause while I read this. Okay, so I'm glad that you mentioned that you had gotten her checked out and everything. I think that's always important with weave issues. Beautiful. Love this. You did that and then did this. And then look how she's going to race to catch up, and that creates this turn and puts you ahead. And then the nice little decel there at yellow. Very nice job here with the rear crosses. This little decel here is really good because you have to find a spot to let her get to catch up, especially over here when she's so far behind. And this is a perfect spot to do it because it is kind of a tight turn here from yellow to blue for a big striated dog. And then again, commit the dog, go. Beautiful. Okay, and so we know that we need to work on weaves. Again, I really like this. Commit the dog, immediately take off. And so the dog is going to take this knowing they should go here next. They're not going to be looking at yellow. Beautiful rear cross of the tunnel. And then here, I love what you do here. Once you get your dog in the tunnel, you cut this way. And that puts you quite a bit far up. Now, as your dog sees you, you're supporting this jump, but you've also given yourself some space. I think your dog maybe even bounces this. Maybe they take one stride there. I like how you're able to do this laterally, and you still have big support here with the arm. But that lateral distance means that now your dog knows which direction to go after the jump. Okay, so I think this is where you were thinking about doing a blind and aborted. You were far ahead. I almost think you maybe could have done it, but I think aborting it is also prudent. If there's anything that makes this hard to do the blind, it's the fact that your dog takes off so far away from the jump. But it looks like a decent jump. They just really extended their body here. And that doesn't give you the room that you need to get in here for the blind. I think maybe you could have made it, but I'd rather see you have a little bit of an ugly ending than get laid out by your dog. So, okay, now let me look at my list, see what's next. So this is Saturday standard. So it came out off the teeter without release, and it fell apart from there. All right. Beautiful deceleration. She doesn't really put in the stride that I'd like to see here. She does get to the teeter. One thing that you might experiment with, you were here super far in advance. Well, actually, I was going to say if you could get up a little bit closer before throwing on the brakes, but she's really caught up to you at this point. So I'd like to see her respond to that better. You might do some work where you do some deceleration exercises where you are at a distance, and really get her to understand that your deceleration cue is the same whether you're here or you're here. And you want to really jackpot the times when she puts in a stride past where you're standing and then does the wrap. And you can do that with just like 2 jumps, or a really great speed setup would be a tunnel, 2 jumps with a wrap back to you, and reward at you repeatedly as like an exercise at home. Okay, and so yeah, she read this. Well, she shouldn't have never released, but she basically read this as pressure to the A-frame, but she should not have released. So, and I wonder if the A-frame was a little bit iffy on the release as well. Yeah, I think, this is just like everybody's mind is blown at this point. I expect, too, that you're standing right next to her here because you don't trust her on the table. I would use this as an opportunity to, if she left the table, you've already NQ'd. If she left the table at that point, to leave the ring. Because all we do is set ourselves up for all of this craziness. So again, she read rear here. She took that jump because she didn't see where you were, and she's taking off running from the table and just beating you here. So we always need to release our dogs from stop contacts, almost always, several feet ahead of the dog so that they know at least to come in this direction towards us, and in the time it takes them to come towards us, we're giving better, clear information for what comes next. Looks like that one was pretty solid, which is good. And nice job on the weaves. Okay, now we have the final run, Sunday Standard. Some late decels, contacts were good. Well, that's good. So even this, to me, is a little bit iffy. Either she self-released or you released here, which isn't a great spot to release. And I think that reason that people would release in a spot like this is because they don't trust that if they keep moving forward, the dog's going to hold. So it's kind of like, oh, thank God she hit the A-frame. Let me release her before, right now it's illegal, and not just legal, but right now it's meeting criteria. If I push it, it's not going to meet criteria. And then I'm going to have to decide, what do I do? So they train you to release as soon as possible before they can mess it up, basically. So I'm really glad that she got it, because the previous day, there was so much self-releasing. But I really want you to be able to run past her on the A-frame. So again, you can set that line coming off of the A-frame, because otherwise, everything after the contact, there is opportunity for things to fall apart. I think there would have been opportunity here for her to feel you racing to catch up, and to turn that way after that, feeling like as she got ahead of you that you were putting pressure on the line, for instance. And that just doesn't happen if you're ahead as you release, and now she's racing to catch up and you're also racing there. Here, yeah, the decel comes after the triple completely. And maybe that's intentional, and it's not necessarily a horrible thing, right? She responds pretty instantly to it, and you get a pretty good turn to the table. And we don't really want her to do this. So, that may be a legitimate strategy there. This I love, because you're able to continue to move past, get into position, and release. Very, very good. All right, nice job.